Everybody, it's Dave Bolduc with the Bella Group. Welcome to my weekly real estate market update. Today is September 30th, and I've got a special guest here. I've got Kelly McGuinness from Prime Lending. Welcome, Kelly. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you for
Good.
joining us.
My
Kelly, if
pleasure.
it's okay with you, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through, lay a bit of a foundation of what I'm seeing out there in the marketplace, and then we'll dive into some questions around renovation loans, if that's all right.
Perfect.
Great, great. So here's what I'm seeing out there. We talk about this every week. There are 5,839 houses active on the market right now. That is very low. It's about 1.4 months of inventory based on adjusted down demand. It's down 100 from last week. So last week when I was talking to you, it was 5950 round numbers. It's 5850 round numbers now. Exactly half of that, 2,924 homes have been on the market greater than 50 days. Why 50 days? Well, 19 days on market is the median days on market for houses selling right now. 50 days is about 2.5 times that. It's just a rule of thumb that I have. If houses are staying on that long, there's something going on with the house. Could be price, could be location, but a lot of the houses, and if you're a buyer out there looking around or an agent, a lot of the houses, they need some love. It could be just something cosmetic, the kitchen needs to be updated, or it could be, the roof is shot, the furnace is shot, there's huge issues. So those houses, in my opinion, represent an opportunity. And this is the person that I've been talking about every week when I talk about renovation loans. Kelly is the renovation, amongst other things, an expert in renovation loans. So Kelly, we're going to just jump into some questions here.
Perfect.
So the first one, tell me a little bit about your career and experience specifically around renovation loans.
Great. So I've been in lending for 38 years, spent most of my career as an individual business owner. And then 9 years ago was fortunate enough to join Prime Lending. And for the first part of my career, I didn't touch a renovation loan. A lot of bad publicity and bad reputation surrounding renovation loans. But when I got to Prime Lending, I realized we did them really, really well. And I realized there was a real need in the marketplace. And kind of how that happened was my daughter and my daughter-in-law were both looking for houses. And their criteria was they didn't want to have to do anything to the house. They had to be perfect. Both of them bought the house, but we found houses that met those criteria. They both got in the house. And then every Sunday when they'd come to my house for dinner, they would be talking about Joanna Gaines and HGTV and how they were going to redo their kitchens and baths. And they've done that. And what I realized was that millennials in particular really want homes their way. And they've been heavily influenced by all the amazing shows that are on HGTV about this. And so I decided that there weren't a lot of lenders doing it well in the marketplace, that I was going to become an expert in the field. I did that, and soon enough kind of became one of the leading renovation lenders in Connecticut.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. Buyers that I work with, the vast majority of them, they want to walk into a house that's perfect. And
exactly.
There's not many of those out there. I just said 50% of the ones on the market are, need some kind of love at least.
Yeah, especially in New England where we have the oldest inventory in America.
Yes.
This is where America was born. We've got houses, from the 1700s. So
yes.
and we have winter, hot, heat, and cold. So the conditions play a part on our property conditions. So the renovation loan just became like this amazing opportunity for buyers to get into homes and make them the way they really want them.
Yeah, I agree. So what is a renovation loan? Who do you see using them, and how are they different from, you hear about FHA, conventional, how are they different? Tell me a little bit about it.
So the most important thing to understand about a renovation loan, it's one loan. A lot of people think you get your regular mortgage and then you get a second loan for the renovation. That's not the case. And renovation loans, there are conventional renovation loans, there's FHA renovation loans. The most popular is the FHA 203K. And the reason it's the most popular is because it's the one that most lenders only offer. Mm-hmm. So for example, we offer 22 different renovation loan programs on conventional loans, FHA loans, VA loans, USDA loans. I mean, we really have a full palette so that we're not necessarily taking a conventional buyer and forcing them into an FHA loan, which may not be the best loan program for them, and vice versa. And we really want to match the loan program. When we're evaluating a renovation loan, we first want to evaluate what kind of loan the client should be in. And then secondarily, we want to understand the scope of the project. Those are the two things that really help us determine which renovation loan programs they should be using. But it's one loan. It's only one loan.
Excellent. Excellent. And that's good to know. A lot of people do have the expectation that it's going to come out as two separate loans, two different things you have to deal with. It comes together at the end, nice and simple, one payment, all with the same lender, makes it easy.
Correct.
So how do they work? High level, how does it work? I want to do what?
Great. Okay. So what we do, let's assume you're going to purchase a house and you want to use a renovation loan in the purchase. What we do, and this is the beauty of a renovation loan, is what we do is we take the purchase price, we take a bid from a contractor, and I'll get into that in a little bit. We take whatever that bid amount is, and we usually take 10% of the bid amount as a reserve fund. We call that the like you open a wall and you weren't expecting anything. Every contractor has that like, oops, we got bad news. So we take 10% of the renovation amount. We add those three things together and we treat that now as if it's your purchase price. And the house needs to appraise essentially at that price. But the good news is we're appraising it as if that work has already been completed. So if somebody's adding square footage, I've done renovation loans where we literally converted a cape into a colonial, where we've doubled the size of a house with an addition. All of that additional square footage and it gets counted in the appraised value. So you're able to borrow against the future value of the home.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. I'm sorry. I don't know if everybody saw it. This is my puppy Boots. She just came up to say hello.
She's so pretty.
So, so that it sounds like there's a lot of flexibility around that. Are there any limits? Are there any things you can't do when it comes to a renovation loan?
Well, yeah, there's a couple things. You can't do a complete tear down. So we're not gonna, we're not gonna substitute a true construction loan program for this. If you're buying an investment property, you're only limited to renovation on a single family property, and there's no do-it-yourself work. That's the most important thing, is that when you're going to be doing a renovation loan and financing this, you have to be using a licensed contractor. And we are going to go through a process of vetting the contractor. We want to make sure they're properly licensed, that they're properly insured. And we need it in order to get started. And this is the part where we're seeing a little bit of challenge with this today because contractors are so busy in this market. Yeah. But I know you have contractors and you can solve that problem. But what we need is basically the bid to get started, because as I said, we take that bid amount into the appraised value. So whenever somebody's looking to buy a house using a renovation loan, getting that bid done first is really important. And then the second thing that we're always paying really close attention to is the work that's being performed in the renovation going to add value to the home. So here's something that usually surprises people. If somebody wants to do a renovation loan simply to replace a roof, we may not get additional appraised value for the cost of the roof, because every home in the appraisal is expected to have a working roof. Every home is expected to have a working well or a working septic system. So those like great mechanical upgrade things that really are important in a home, we don't always get the value that we may need to do a renovation loan. And that only impacts us when we're dealing with minimum down payment borrowers. So if you have somebody who's coming in with a larger down payment and they want to add that to them, we have ways to structure the deal accordingly. But for somebody who really has minimum down payment on the renovation loan, if we're not getting the value, and I can usually, once I take a look at the bid, I can usually give some guidance and some insight on how I think it's going to look. Okay.
Yeah. That's good to know. And yet you mentioned that I do have some contractors that have that qualification already in place and they're ready to move forward. So it's good to have a team. And that's kind of what we like to do is have a team that everybody can work together. Are there any fees? Are there any special fees related to doing a renovation loan?
Yes. Yeah. So it's important to know that the interest rate on a renovation loan is usually about 0.5% higher than the interest rate on a non-renovation loan. And that's because there of all the additional risks that go along with doing a renovation loan. It's not uncommon that I'll put somebody in a renovation loan. They get through with all of their projects, depending on where rates are, and then we do a refinance to get them into a lower interest rate that doesn't involve a renovation loan. There's also some additional fees. There's some administrative fees, and in the case of someone who's adding square footage or they're doing structural repairs, we do need an engineering report, which can sometimes add some additional expense. But we have ways to contend with that. A lot of contractors are able to handle the need for a renovation report by working directly with their lumber yard to get an approved structural.
Right.
There's a certain test. This is where my husband always jokes. He thinks it's hysterical. I'm the queen of renovation, given I usually don't even know how to plug in a toaster, but most builders have a way around but if not, then we would need an engineer's report. And that can sometimes be like $2,500, but not, the fees are not, while there are extra fees, they're really not onerous given the scope of the kind of loan program it is.
Yeah. And the value that it can bring, to your point earlier about that HGTV experience, having exactly what you want, being able to really fine tune the house. Because anybody that's out there looking, you go look at houses, everyone's different. Everyone's got its own little quirks. And if you're able to just bring things into exactly what you want, there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, last question is, how do I get started? So say I want to I'm working with somebody and I want to get a renovation loan. I'm interested in looking at these 50% of houses that people don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
How do you get started?
So the first thing would be to come to us for a pre-approval so that we can determine what your maximum financing amount is, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say we are able to pre-approve you for $300,000, and now you start looking at $200,000 houses. We know you've got $100,000 renovation budget that you can start looking at. So the very first step is to get pre-approved, and once that process takes place, I'll then say, well, let's talk about your aptitude for construction. If you really just want to find something where you want a pretty kitchen, you're approved for $300,000. Maybe you're looking in the $250,000 range. But if you want to make that cape a colonial because you have your heart set on a colonial, then you're looking in the $200,000 range because it may cost you $100,000 to raise the roof and add the second floor. So it's determining the maximum qualification, what your appetite is for construction, and then setting up a home search with you so that we can work into it.
Yeah, and I want to reemphasize something you did say, that pre-approval is first. It's so important to get in contact with a lender. Little plug here. Get in contact with the lender and get that pre-approval so you're financing before you start looking, so that you don't have a heartbreak when you find the perfect house.
Exactly.
Outside your range.
Exactly.
So I appreciate all that information, Kelly. Is there anything that I didn't ask about that you think would be a good thing to relay related to renovation loans?
I think people should really explore this opportunity, especially in a market where we have such limited inventory. And the projection is that this inventory crisis might be around for a while. So if you're willing to roll up your sleeves, and again, Dave, what's great about you is you've got the contractors, because that's been the biggest hindrance for us over the last 2 years is contractors and supply chain issues and whatnot. But I wish I had an hour to tell you all the wonderful stories about all the wonderful renovation loans we've done, kitchen remodels, bath remodels, making a cape into a colonial, adding an entire in-law addition. There's just so many wonderful things that can be done. I had a client who was able to buy a 3-family home completely uninhabitable, and he renoed all 3 units, living in one of the units. So there's a lot that we can really do with this program to create, real estate purchases, because we know real estate's going to continue to rise in Connecticut. There's no expectation that we're going to see prices drop. So, if the house that you want isn't out there, let's make one for you.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I've been hammering on that point as well. There's really there could be some black swan event that none of us are aware of.
Correct.
Nothing in the data really indicates that we're going to see housing prices tank. So
now,
even though that's what everybody's saying.
Especially in Connecticut, in Connecticut.
especially if I could get into all sorts of data behind
You
that.
and well, that's where you and I start turning into data nerds, and we start talking for
Yes,
like 2 hours about all the data we look at.
So thank you very much. I really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
your
Thank
time,
you for
Kelly.
having me.
Yes, and so everybody, please, if you need anything at all, I'll have some contact information in the links below or in the description below for Kelly, and certainly for myself, some videos that I've done that relate to some of these tangentially, some of these topics. Please click the like button, subscribe, ring notification bell so you can get additional videos as they come out. And please throw those comments down there. If you have questions, if you have comments, reach out to us directly, throw them in the comments. I will definitely answer. And for anything that I can't answer, I'll definitely let Kelly know, and we can get the information. And Boots did want to say goodbye. So
bye, Boots.
have a great day, everybody. Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.